Hey everybody, welcome to TnSportsChat presented by Lehigh Valley Health Network. I'm Patrick Matsinko, this is Emmett McCall. Coming off of a big weekend for our area teams and athletes. First thing obviously that comes to mind is Northwestern's Clymer claiming a state title on Saturday in Hershey at the Giant Center.
Yeah, you had an exciting weekend covering Caleb. You don't get a whole lot of state champs, so those events are really exciting.
Yeah, you don't want to take that kind of stuff for granted. Looking back on the last couple of years now, that was actually 3 years in a row now that we've had one of our kids in a state final. Northern Lehigh's Ryan Farber was in a final last year. Jim Thorpe's Kevin Gentile won a state title the year before that. But yeah, you don't want to take that stuff for granted. You don't know how often those things are going to happen. Definitely a special moment. Neat to be a part of it for sure.
One thing we know is if there's any more climbers coming around,
and it'll
happen again because it's the third state champion in the family.
Yeah, he joins Scotty and Ben as state champions. And then they also have brother Bobby, who all four are district champions. All four obviously incredibly talented, very accomplished. But and it kind of seemed like, I guess the story here was kind of like the arc was sort of like a year in the making. He was third a year ago. One of the main things he said to me after he was third was that he wanted a state title as a senior, and he went out and he did it.
Yeah, most people get a bronze medal and they're celebrating.
Yeah,
they're happy with it. And his first thought was, "I want gold next year," and obviously worked to make that happen.
And he made it happen. Head coach Jim Moll talked about his work ethic. In the off season, during the season,
he could just wrestle with his brothers and become one of the best wrestlers around.
And I think that helps him because he talks a lot about how much they do help him with different aspects of it, especially Bobby. I know he talks a lot about Bobby and how much he helps him. Bobby was actually at the Pennsylvania State Police Academy in Hershey on Saturday. Couldn't get to the Giant Center, but I think he was able to maybe catch some of the match on TV, and I know Caleb caught up with him later. But yeah, Caleb was as advertised throughout those 3 days in Hershey. I think he outscored his opponents. I know he outscored his opponents 20-1.
Yeah, that's pretty dominant.
Yeah, so he was everything that you kind of hope for, and everything you want to be, I guess, in a tournament like that at the end of the season.
Yeah, to dominate with that amount of talent that he had to face. And only surrender 1 point in four matches is pretty incredible.
And he wins a state title with a major decision.
Right.
That's, I think, kind of just the icing on the cake, and maybe one of his best performances of the season, of the tournament, of his career. So it was
just a great way to end a great career.
Absolutely. And I had a chance to catch up with Caleb after his victory to get his thoughts on winning his first state title.
Maybe it was a little bit of the adrenaline kind of going on, but that was it. I was just focused on my match. My shots were nice and crisp. I had a nice misdirection right there to open it up, and was able to have a nice mat return. So that was it. I was just wrestling 6 hard minutes.
What was your best match here this weekend?
I would say the finals match. I wrestled well in my first match, but the finals match I really put together, riding it out on top, getting to my bar, getting to my tight waist hill, and then especially on my feet, getting to my misdirections and being real crisp on that, which is what I've been working on this entire season. So for it to pay off fully in my last match for a state title, it's definitely awesome.
That was Caleb talking about his victory over the weekend. Again, a very special moment for him, for the family, just for the whole program to have that kind of moment and have experienced that. But we also had 9 other Times News area wrestlers compete in the state tournament. I'm just going to kind of go alphabetically here, try to run through them. Jim Thorpe's Ethan Mordaunt was there. We had 3 other wrestlers from Northwestern: Matt Peters, Jackson Bernhard, Colin Rex. We had Palmerton's Lucas Chrisman. We had 3 wrestlers from Panther Valley. We had Hunter and Tanner Kennedy. We had Derek Beckham. We had Tamaqua's Bronson Strauss. So
good representation. No one else made it to the medal round on Saturday. No one made it that far, but they all had pretty competitive matches throughout the tournament.
There were a lot of. I know Hunter Kennedy had a couple of overtime matches. Tanner Kennedy scored late to get a win in a first round consolation match. Lucas Chrisman had a win. Bronson Strauss, wrestled super tough, had to go up against Wilson's Colby Flank, a kid that he wrestled in a district final and also last week or 2 weeks ago at regionals. Again, another overtime match. Jim Thorpe's Ethan Mordaunt, again, they were tough, tight, close matches. And same for the 3 Northwestern guys, all of which picked up at least one win in the tournament, Peters, Rex, and Bernhard. But there was that third round of consolations Friday, late morning, early afternoon that determined whether you were going to be guaranteed a spot in the top 8 or if your tournament was going to come to an end. And those 3 guys, or not those 3 guys, but we had Matt, we had Jackson, and we had Lucas Chrisman in that round. And again, tough competition across the board in all those weight classes. So you don't want to ever sell it as, or kind of painted as that they came up short. I mean,
we're talking state championships. One of 16, 20 in each weight class.
So
the best in the state.
And I mean, if you're coming out of any of these regions, any of these districts, these kids are all super talented, super tough. So it's certainly not something that you ever want to kind of frame that way
for granted.
Sure.
Right. So having 10 wrestlers going to Hershey was a real nice representation for our area this year.
And several will be able to come back next year with Lucas, Ethan, Bronson, Derek, Beckham. They'll all be underclassmen, ready to come back and roll again next year. So that wraps up our wrestling season. Also want to congratulate Caleb, who was selected for the Pennsylvania team in the Dapper Dan Classic.
Great honor.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the caliber of kids that are going to be there, Gavin Teasdale, a 4-time state champion out of Jefferson Morgan.
You were telling me you were kind of looking at the list of wrestlers who are going to represent Pennsylvania, and they go against an all-star high school team
across America.
The country.
Yeah.
But what was the record of those
over
records?
2,000
wins
they
were 23 losses.
Yeah, they were
something
combined
crazy.
2,068 and 223. But again, you're taking like the sample size there is huge, and the wrestlers have combined. It's 2A and 3A, and they've combined for 23 state titles. Nazareth Sammy Sasso is also going to be a part of it, another District 11 wrestler. Caleb will wrestle somebody from Bergen Catholic in New Jersey, but that'll be March 25th in Pittsburgh at the Fitzgerald Fieldhouse in Pittsburgh. So so that'll be kind of neat and something to look forward to. And then I guess we'll kind of wait to see where he ends up deciding to go to school. Yeah. So but that wraps up our wrestling season for now. So.
Basketball season also wrapped up this weekend. 3 teams in the state playoffs. None of them were able to get a state playoff win, but all 3 teams had really successful seasons, and it was a good basketball season.
Yeah, kind of thinking about the Weatherly girls playing against the Christian Academy, a close game, 49-43.
Yeah, Weatherly had a late lead in that, lost the lead in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game, but first time they were in state playoffs in over 30 years, so it was nice for them to get back. Emily Zolson's back, and a couple 3 or 4 other girls who played key roles for them this year are back, so can look for more success for Weatherly in the future.
Yeah, and another program that ended a long dry spell of state playoff, district championship type appearances was the Panther Valley boys team, which ran up against Math, Civics, and Science on Saturday in Philadelphia.
Yeah, ran up against a Class 2A powerhouse. Hung with them for first half. Were competitive through the first half. Got away from them a little in the second half, but Panther Valley, another team that had a really, really nice season.
Yeah, and then we also had the Tamaqua boys that came through out of a consolation game to advance into the state playoffs. Again, another tough
powerhouse Scranton Prep team in Class 4A. Have a Division I prospect, a 6'8" kid that's really
can't teach size, right?
No, right. And they also dropped out, but same as the other 2 state playoff teams, Panther Valley or Tamaqua had a really nice season as well.
So we're done with the majority of our winter sports, but we still have a lot to look forward to with swimming coming up this weekend.
This is it. This will wrap up the winter sports season. Coming up in the next couple of days, we will have 3 area swimmers out at Bucknell University for the state swim meet.
Awesome campus.
You've been there.
I have.
for swimming actually too, right?
Yes, and it's always again, just like state wrestling or anything like that. It's a neat experience, and you think again about state champions and Caleb Clymer. We certainly have one of our athletes that's positioned very, very well to repeat and
Right.
and to also bring home some more gold in Marion's Danny Berlitz.
Right, he was the 500 freestyle state champ last year. This year he is seated second in that event. It's like 26/100ths of a second behind the top seed.
A swipe of a hand.
Yeah, exactly. Touch of a fingertip. And then he's seated first in the 200 IM.
By quite a bit.
Right, by over 4 seconds in a 200
Yeah,
IM.
you think about those events, and
yeah,
that's the one that he
usually
has a huge
seconds,
margin.
right?
Yeah.
Less than a second, I should say. And yeah, he's got a 4-second. His seed time's 4 seconds better than the next best time. He actually might have won that race a year ago.
Yeah.
He got DQ'd for an illegal stroke or illegal touch or something, but I'm sure he's going to want to get a little revenge for what happened last year. But he's a medal favorite and even a gold medal favorite in both of those events.
Absolutely, and again, you don't want to take it for granted or look past anything, but with where he's seated and how he's performed throughout the season, you would have to, again, like you said, think that he's an odds-on favorite to produce and perform again at a really high level this weekend.
Yeah.
So, but he's not our only swimmer that's out there.
No, we have 2 female swimmers out there, Lexi Kerstetter from Tamaqua and Maddie Dando from Marion. Kerstetter is in the 200 free, Dando in the 100 backstroke. Kerstetter is going to be swimming Friday out at Bucknell. I believe Dando has a Saturday event, but they're both district champs and going to represent the area out there as well.
Yeah, and again, just kind of going out there and thinking about the experience and certainly making the most of it. And obviously, again, you just kind of think about how they perform, like you said, about district champions, and they certainly seem to be in a great spot to hopefully peak at the right time and come back from Bucknell with some hardware. So that'll be this Friday and Saturday on the swimming front. Sam Otto will be covering that for us,
Yep.
and we also have a preview story coming in Thursday's Times
Right,
News.
Justin Carlucci working on a preview story for that event. Speaking of our newspaper, you're going to have your wrestling roundup, wrap up with your final rankings. That's coming in Friday's paper this week.
Yes, God willing. So, but
It'll go well, Patrick. Those rankings, I'm sure, are quite a headache.
yeah, it's a bit of a relief when it's over, I guess. But we'll still have obviously our athletes of the year coming up and all-star teams and things like that down the road a little bit. But
And maybe if it ever gets warm and stops snowing, and,
I don't know.
we'll get some baseball, softball, and track and tennis in
Yeah.
the spring season.
it's been a little bit discouraging. And I
Just
think
got a phone alert that 1 to 3 inches of snow in the Poconos and wet snow and maybe a coating here in Carbon County later today. So I've talked to a bunch of ADs over the last 3 or 4 days just trying to get practice schedules so we can go out and get some photos to run with our preview stories. And they're all telling me the same story. Either their teams haven't been out on the field at all. They started practice a week ago Monday, so
Yeah.
it's like 10 days. Haven't been out the field at all, or maybe got 1 day last week when it was a little warmer, but it doesn't look like the next few days they're going to get out again.
no, it's not encouraging. But at least we didn't get the 12 to 18 inch monster that we thought might be coming last week.
Yeah,
So
good thing. Now we just need a few 50, 60-degree days, get those fields in shape, because opening day is scheduled for next Friday, the 23rd is that. We will be
hard to
running our
believe.
previews all next week for all the sports, for tennis, baseball, softball, girls and boys track. Starting this Saturday, I believe we'll start with the tennis, and then Monday through Thursday we'll have the previews of the other sports. So, and yeah, hopefully we'll have some ball to report on
Hopefully,
next week.
hopefully that, or maybe we should just see if everybody can just invest in some sort of dome and go indoors for a
There you
little
go.
while. But
Work on that.
fingers crossed, and hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later. But for now, that's all we have for this week, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next week to wrap up all the swimming action, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the spring sports. But we'll definitely have the swimming to recap for you. So thank you once again for joining us on TN Sports Chat presented by Lehigh Valley Health Network. For Emmett, McCall, I'm Patrick Matsinko. So long.